Well, hello. Hey, welcome to another live stream. Hey, our topic today is Sparks group pacing. I'm going to explain what that means here in a second. But that's our topic. Before I get started, I just want to show something to you. For those of you who haven't heard, Awana has produced a new Sparks large group guide. And I'm going to do probably a review of that, maybe a little training of that next week. But I thought for some of that to make sense, I just wanted to talk to you all about um, the Sparks group pacing, and once you kind of understand that, some of that book will make a little more sense. Or yeah, so let's just start. So group pacing, we're talking about today, versus individual pacing. So years ago, Awana, Sparks, and TNT, they used individual pacing, and so for instance, Sparks had 3 books, and the kids would start at hang glider and work their way through. Every kid would start in hang glider, work their way through, and the next book, a wing runner, and then skystormer, and they would go at their own pace. So some kids could do half a section a week. Some kids could do more, and some kids didn't finish their books. Some kids finished their books, and so every kid was on their own, individually paced. And then TNT did the same thing. And then a couple of years ago, Awana produced these. And then all the other clubs, Cubbies, Trek, and Journey, were all group paced. So, for instance, Cubbies, they'd all be in one section together, and then all be in another section together the next week. And same with Trek and Journey. So, a couple of years ago, Awana started producing um, a group paced TNT book so that all the kids would be in the same book in the same section. And so during that time, there was some people want to know, how is this possible to do this with Sparks? They really like the group pacing for discipleship purposes, but is it possible to do this with Sparks? So some clubs across the country started goofing around with that and trying to figure it out. Matter of fact, our club started using it. And so there is a way that you can take the Sparks materials and group pace those kids. And that's the purpose. I'm going to explain that today. Let's just talk about traditional. Okay. Let's just talk about traditional, the complexities of a traditional individual paced small group time or handbook time. And so I wrote down some things here. Okay, you're a handbook leader. You've got 5 or 6 kids in your group. Some can read, some can't. Some get help at home, some can't. Some are in Skystormer, some are in Wing Runner. Some can read, some can't. It's just a very difficult environment to have any kind of level of discipleship. And typically, what would happen is people would just go around the room and, hey, Billy, do you have a section? And then Joey, do you have a section? And yes, you do. Now you might spend a lot of time working with one kid. Now the other kids get ignored. And there was a lot of the volunteers that we talked with who didn't feel good about the level of discipleship that they had related to the handbook time or small group time. So that's and I know you all have done that kind of thing. We used to call it survival time. Very stressful and just not a good way to do it. So let me just talk about what a group paced small group time might look like. So number one, it's orderly. Okay, everybody's in the same section, everybody's in the same book, and I'm going to explain how that works. Okay, you're going to have maybe a robust prayer time. So you might have a prayer time beyond just, hey, can I pray for your dog and pray for that kind of thing. You can have more of a robust prayer time. You can help the kids. You can explain and help them understand the verse. Typically there's one verse per week, depending on there's a couple weeks, depending on how many weeks in club you have. You may have to, double up, but typically it's one per week. And then there's the ability to handle varied demographics of learning style, of age, of it's really a great way to do small group time. So how do you make it work? Let me just explain that. So what you might do, okay, now depending on the size of your Sparks group, if you have enough where you can have one table or one group for each book or more, if you don't have enough, if you only have 2 or 3 or 4 Sparks, you might want to think about doing the Sparks, the smaller book, the Essentials book, and that would make a little more sense. And if you have any questions about that, let me know and I can help with that. But you'd have 1 or 2 groups. You divide the kids into what book they're in, okay? And then what we like to do at our club and what I recommend is that when you start the year, everybody starts with the Flight 316. So the first week or 2 weeks, everybody starts with the Flight 316. Now, it's not designed that way, but think about it. The Flight 316 is it's a gospel track. So starting the year, helping the kids understand the gospel is not a bad thing. So you start with the Flight 316. You set up a calendar for each book, 1 calendar for Hang Glider, 1 calendar for Wing Runner, and 1 calendar for Skystormer. And in this Sparks Large Group Time, there's calendars that tell you how to break up the year. It's a great thing how you can break up the year so that everybody can finish the book. Okay. You might want to coordinate the missions nights, depending. Some clubs will have me come and do a missionary section or missionary night. Some clubs will have other people come on a missionary night, but you can coordinate the mission section because all the books have missions components. You can do that or not, but if you have it all in one night, then you can have a missionary night. And then so each week, each one of those groups are in the same verse in the same book. So you'd have a hang glider table, and they're in section 1-2, and then then the red jewel 1-2, or the next week they're red jewel 1-3, and you just kind of pencil out the year. And then the leader can talk about what the verse means. They can help the kids with the devotional. They can help kids memorize scripture if they didn't come prepared. And you can have a prayer time. It's really a good way to do small group time. And then what you're going to have to do with this Sparks Large Group Time book, there's 3 books. There's going to be 3 large group components. And so not every kid is going to hear a large group that matches that small group. They'll all be in the same small group time together, a small group section together, but the large group might not match with the small group like it does in TNT or some of the other clubs, Cubbies, whatever. So let's see, what's the next thing? What if? Okay, so what if somebody starts mid-year, so that you start and then you have a new person come in week 10. So what we would say is if they come to week 10, but that's the first week of club, then give them their book and then start them on that same week. And then they go forward with the group. And if they want a book award, they're going to have to catch up going backwards. And you can tell the kid or tell the parents, hey, we have these book awards. If you want your kids to get a book award, then they need to catch up 8-10 sections. And so they can come early, they can stay late, they can, skip game time. They can bring their book to church on Sunday. They can call or Zoom call their leader and pass a section that way, so they can catch up going backwards. Typically, they missed a week, they'd catch up going forward, but now you have them catch up and go. So that way, every week they're in the discussion with the rest of the group. So that's the first thing. What if somebody starts mid-year? What if somebody misses a week? So little Billy goes on vacation, he misses week 5 and 6. So then now you're on week 7. So you would continue on week 7. Hey, Billy, if you want to get these other sections signed, you need to come early. You need to stay late. You need to bring your book on Sunday. We'll say that, find me at Sunday school or find me at church. I'll pass a section with you, or call me, or skip game time, or however you want to do that allow them to catch up. So if they miss 2 or 3, 4 weeks or 1 week, somebody's sick, and just have them catch that week up, but keep everybody on the same section that week so that throughout the whole year, you have discussion, you have prayer time, you can explain the verse, you help the kids understand the verse. So what about if they bring friends? Okay, so let's say they're a second grader and typically they'd be in Skystormer. What if they bring friends? Now, I would say if they bring a friend, don't put their friend in the hang glider group, because the reason they brought their friend is because they want to spend time with them. Put them in the Skystormer group and give them the Skystormer book. And let them go through Sparks in the Skystormer book. Or, what if somebody starts Sparks in second grade? My suggestion would be have them start with that Skystormer book. And then if they want the Sparky plaque or the second book, they've got to work going backwards. So they do the Skystormer book with everybody else. This is assuming they start your Sparks Club in second grade. And then they can, if they finish that book, they're going to get first book award. But if they want their Sparky statue, then they've got to catch up going backwards. So it's just a different way of looking at it. Now, the other thing, what if they want to go forward? So let's say, you always get mom and dad who say, my little Billy's smart and he knows everything. And hold on a second here. He knows everything. And he does this week, and then he does next week, and then he does next week. And so my suggestion would be on that is say not let him go forward, okay, because we're all going to get a book award. But you tell mom and you tell little Billy, if they're in week 10, you would do week 10, and then you're going to review week 9, and then you're going to review week 8, and then you're going to spend as much time as you can. You're going to review the week. So week 10, you do 10, 9, 8. Week 11, you do 11, 10, 9. Week 12. Because, what would happen at our club, my wife was very convicted at this. What would happen, and she was really good at this. What would happen is, we used to give out Awana shares. And the kids want as many Awana shares as they can earn. We would give out, we used to give out candy. So they want more candy. So she would say, hey, if you can do last week's verse, I'll give you another Awana share, another piece of candy. You can do the week's verse before, or she would have them recite the gospel wheel verses, or she would have them recite the Flight 316 verse again, or she would find another verse for them to recite. So they were constantly reciting verses, but they weren't just plowing forward, not really understanding what they just recited. She would take the time that week to explain that verse, help them with that week's verse. And then there were some kids who wanted to earn extra shares. They'd review backwards and to get more shares and more candy or whatever, however you do the awards. Okay. Now, the other thing to think about is, back in the day, we used to give, we'd have theme nights, whoever could pass the most sections. So what you could do with that is, rather than who can pass the most sections, you'd say, hey, we're going to have a certain theme night. And if you're caught up that week, then you get to participate in the theme night. So if we have, whatever, you get an extra share, you get an extra 5 shares if you're caught up that week. And then do that 3 or 4 times throughout the year. So if you have theme nights, you're helping kids stay on track with their book. So that's another thing to think about. So I think that's about it. It's, the group pacing is a great way to do discipleship. The leaders really like it because they feel like they're really discipling the kids rather than just sit down, shut up, say your verse, pass as many sections as they can. They're discipling. It's not so stressful. I'll tell you another thing too. What if you have some kids who can't read or don't get help at home? You could have a don't get help at home group, maybe, or mix those in with the other kids. And maybe you could do a group recite. So if you got 6 or 7 kids and none of them could read, none of them get help at home, or half of them can read, half of them get help at home. Maybe you could write the verse on the whiteboard. We all say it together. You erase a word or two, and then say it again. Then you erase another word or two. Next thing you know, that whole Sparks group can recite that whole verse. So that's something to think about. It's a great way because they're all in the same section. If none of them get help at home, you can help them recite that verse, learn that verse using a whiteboard that way, or some other game. Maybe you could write the verse on little sticky notes or something like that so that the whole group gets, because you're helping everybody in the same verse. So I hope that helps give you some thoughts about your Spark small group time. If you have any questions about sort of the logistics of it, it took us a while at our club. We've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. If you need to think through some things, it took us a while to kind of really think through how all the variables. And if you need some help, let me know. But it's a great way to do discipleship. Hope that helps. And thank you again for all you're doing for kids. Hope you're enjoying the summer. I know it's great here in Truckee. And so, yeah, we'll see you down the road. Thanks. Bye.